My name's Jackie Donny. I'm a radiographer by trade. I've worked for a company called Genesis Care for about the last 6 years now, moving from being a lead radiographer in one of the centres into centre management. And over the last couple of years, I've worked specifically in service development, so bringing in new techniques into the business and developing those across our sort of all across the UK, across our centres. Genesis Care doesn't just exist in the UK though. We are an international company with centres, lots of centres in Australia, many centres now in Spain as well, and we are growing our footprint throughout the world. So we've got about 80 linear accelerators across the world at the moment, so we're not a small company, and we look at service development internationally now with a view to whatever we roll out somewhere that's had a very positive impact, we'll look to roll that out across the world. So in the UK, we've got 10 centres at the moment. We've got 7 bespoke radiotherapy centres, working alongside partner hospitals for services like chemotherapy, diagnostics, and Genesis Care actually run the radiotherapy aspect of that. We also have our own medical centres. 3 of those are open, which actually are a complete package. They offer the chemotherapy, minor surgeries and outpatient clinics. We employ about 150 staff in the UK, so we are growing quite rapidly, and we offer treatments such as deep inspiration breath hold as standard, Sabre. We offer smart planning, so we can turn plans around in 5 to 6 days, if not quicker. Palliatives in its sort of same day service. And we offer a Living Well programme for all of our patients too, so looking after the holistic needs of everybody that comes to have care with us. It's important I put up our vision and value statement, because everything certainly that we do is related to this statement up here. Certainly when we're looking at service development, we're looking at things like, can we improve quality either for our patients or for our staff or for our clinicians? Can we improve access to our services so more people can come in and have really good quality treatment, or a treatment that it is sort of fits more in with their life? Or can we improve efficiency in our centres, be that time to treatment or actual treatment delivery, or the speed that patients can come in and out of our centres if they're busy and they want that fast sort of turnaround. So why did we start looking at SGRT? Well, we wanted to improve our safety, improve our patient journey and patient comfort. We wanted to see if this technology was something that would be beneficial for use in our centres. We wanted to increase efficiency in our centres so we can actually treat more patients on a daily basis. And we wanted to look at improving our breath hold service. So we've delivered breath hold in our centres for many years. We've published data on our breath hold. Up until now, we've used a system called SDX or DINAR, which is a spirometry-based system. And although it delivers excellent clinical results, our patient feedback from this system has not been as good perhaps as the sort of clinical data that has been produced. It involves our patients wearing a snorkel mouthpiece, we nose peg them, and then we also put virtual goggles on their eyes. So not only are we leaving them in the bunker all by themselves, as Rachel's just said, which isn't a pleasant experience in its own accord, we then also strip them of a lot of their senses while we're doing that. So we wanted to see if SGRT was a way that we could improve that service. We also wanted to look into whether SGRT could help us to move into more complex services such as SRS. And I was lucky enough to attend this meeting in America, one of the first ones, where there was a lot of research around SGRT and treating SRS cases. So it seemed to be a bit of a win-win for us. And we also wanted to sort of build our track record in the UK. We'd recently been acquired by Genesis Care. We were previously cancer partners, and we wanted to sort of build our reputation as pushing, sort of leading the way with new and complex treatments. So I don't think I need to labour the point to anybody in the room around breath hold. It is the treatment of choice for most breast cancer patients and lung patients for various reasons. Reduction in cardiac dose, reduction in lung volume for some of our chest patients we see, some of our Sabre patients, and also in getting your patient into that very still position. They're not moving around while you're delivering your radiotherapy. So as I've said, we've done this for several years. This is the DINAR system I just talked about. You can see the spirometer in situ there with the nose peg and the goggles. It's fairly invasive. It is a voluntary system, so patients are in control of their own breath hold. However, they still have a spirometer in the mouth, and a lot of patients we had to coach pretty endlessly to sort of get them to be able to cope. We would have situations where ladies would come in and, you know, their prep visit that we would do with them, the sort of hour that we'd spend coaching them wouldn't be enough. We'd have to send them home to practice with the spirometer and then come back and try again. So it became not only a not particularly pleasant thing to do to our patients, but actually very time consuming as well. So patients would breathe away normally. You can see here on the left picture, they breathe away normally, normal respiration. When they're ready, they breathe up and into the green bar so that we could ensure that they had the correct lung volume for treatment. They would hold for as long as they can and then breathe away. So it's entirely controlled by the patient. It's not a forced breath hold such as the ABC or other systems like that on the market. So when we looked at SGRT, we looked at all the vendors that were available at the current time. So I looked at CRAD, Vision RT and Humedic. We completed MDT meetings with all of the vendors. We went and saw we did site visits and we went and saw the kit being used by clinical staff. We talked to all the companies around training and resource allocation and what support we'd have at Go Live. Our centres in the UK are one Linac models mostly, so that sort of training and support for us adopting an SGRT system was fairly crucial, and we needed to be certain that the system would be reliable and that we would be thoroughly supported at each centre as we went live. We also talked to the companies about their visions, ideally wanting them to align with our own, and what they were looking to develop in the future. And then obviously engineering and technical support, as I've said, because we have one Linac models. So when we did decide with putting a system into test, we chose Align RT and to put it into our centre at Nottingham. We needed to ensure that we had staff buy-in. We needed to prove that SGRT was as good as, if not better than, our current DIBH offering. There was, I guess, a bit of a feel around at the time in that were we just moving over to SGRT because it was the new shiny thing on the market. So we needed to prove to our clinicians and our physicists and our clinical staff that it was actually as good as what we were doing previously. We wanted to test open face shells for, thinking about moving into delivering SRS treatments. And I guess more than anything, we wanted to check that the correlation we were seeing with the SGRT system matched that of our XVI shifts post-setup. And then also, and actually, interestingly enough, this was a bit of an aside for us, and it's actually become one of our most important things, was to look at removing tattoos for patients. And interestingly, I think we can all stand here as clinical staff or physicists, and yes, we do tattoo patients, we do mark them. And I think doing this audit, which I'll talk a little bit more about as I go on, has just proved how important actually just the tattoo aspect, removing that tattoos, has been in our sort of audit process. So we completed super user training with an MDT group. We sent some physicists along, some RTTs along, and a dosimetrist, and we came to the Vision RT headquarters and completed a 3-day course. We then went back and taught the rest of our clinical team at Nottingham about the technology. We decided against just putting the system into one centre first, just so that we could assess it properly to see if we wanted to roll out to all our other centres and sort of learn lessons from that first implementation. When we went live, we did go live on using SGRT for all of our patients. We discussed whether we just wanted to use it for breast and chest patients, or in fact whether we should just have it on and see what happens for everybody, which is actually what we chose to do, because obviously it's a camera-based system, there's no radiation, so there's really no reason not to have it on. Even if you're not using it for setup and you're just using it for audit purposes, we chose to have it on. Initially, as part of our first sort of couple of weeks of audit, we kept everything completely the same in the clinic. So we still set to tattoos with lasers. We made our shifts to ISA centre. We did our imaging as normal. And we just had the system running in the background to see the correlation between the setup as we saw it and actually what XVI or our imaging showed us. From there, we sort of saw a real correlation between Align RT and our XVI results, as in that they were pretty much exactly the same. Had we made the shifts on Align RT, our XVIs would have been 0, or certainly within a couple of millimetres. So from there we moved the audit on, and we started actually setting up to tattoos and lasers, making shifts, but then we would actually make those final corrections that the Align RT system showed us, so that our images became very, very accurate. And then I've got a couple of pictures just to show you here. So this is the system in situ. You will have demonstrations later on today where you'll be able to see this yourselves if you haven't got systems, in your centres already. But basically, it's a camera system that is mounted in the ceiling of your bunker. There are 3 cameras, each with a pair of eyes, I like to think of. So you've always got at least 2 pairs of eyes looking at your patient at all times, regardless of where your gantry is. The cameras project a pseudo-speckle pattern onto the surface of your patient, which gives you almost 20,000 virtual tattoos. So whereas we had 3 before, our setups now become more accurate because we can see the whole surface of the patient rather than just these 3 little marks that we're trying to move around to. And then the screen that the radiographers will see as they're treating is the one here on the right. And it shows you your delta value. So if your patient actually moves out of tolerance at all during treatment delivery, the beam will hold. So from a safety aspect, that's much improved as well. As I talked a little bit just before about our audit results, this is just a sample. Jo's here from Nottingham. She's got a poster that she can talk you through that's out in the foyer there. But this is just a quick sample of results. We will be writing these up over the course of the year and releasing them as research. But this sort of shows that first audit phase where we set up as normal to tattoos and lasers and shifts. And you can see here that the Align RT software for the first patient, for example, told us we had a 0.4 shift on the vert. When we got them into breath hold, it still said we had a 0.4 shift. And then when we XVI'd, funnily enough, we had a 0.4 shift. And that was sort of very standard for all of our patients. They were within a couple of millimetres of each other. So after we sort of did this preliminary, we then moved on, as I said, to actually correcting those shifts. And you can see that our XVI results were all pretty zero or pretty good to within 1 or 2 mils. So from there, we moved on to actually just using the Align RT system for setting up. This is another picture. This is one of our patients that was on treatment at the moment. So the system, to enable that sort of level of accuracy, you would define a region of interest on your patient. And then the SGRT system will monitor that region of interest during setup and actually treatment delivery. And you can see this patient is aligned within a millimetre of accuracy. If she should sneeze, cough, roll, patients do move. We can actually see that now, whereas before monitoring on CCTV cameras, yes, you'd watch your patient, but you have no sort of certainty that actually when you're walking out of the maze to go and do your imaging, they're not moved. Now we can see that, and actually we do see a lot of patient movement. We're actually looking now to start treating our right breaths in a semi-breath hold, just because about every 40 seconds, every patient seems to take a much deeper breath as part of a normal breathing cycle, and actually they move themselves out of tolerance just in normal breathing. So it's showing us an awful lot more information than we didn't. Examples like when patients cough or sneeze, I've sat there as a treatment radiographer and gone, oh, it's okay, she'll have relaxed into the same place she was before. They don't. And now we've got the sort of evidence to prove that. What this system allows, which is great, is that after that movement, and yes, you can see that they're not in the right place anymore, you don't have to re-XVI. You can actually just use the system to go in and correct those small movements. So our treatment workflow now for breath hold is we take 2 scans of our patient at CT. We will do a scan in free breathe and we will do a scan in breath hold. In the treatment machine, we use that free breathe surface to set up. So we literally put our patients onto the breastboard. We'll unlock the couch. We'll actually just free float to match the surfaces. So similar to what you do when you look at an XVI image on treatment, we overlay the surfaces so that they lock in. And then we use the bed just to correct for any sort of small, fine movements. When we're happy that they're positioned correctly in their free breathing position, we would flick over to our breath hold data from CT. We get them to take a deep breath in the room. If we see any lateral or longitudinal shifts, we actually correct for those before we scan. Patient breathes out, we exit the room, we get them into breath hold. We actually XVI all our patients before we treat. So we would XVI in breath hold, breathe out, check the XVI, and then away we go. It's very, very simple. That, in comparison to what we were doing before, is this little diagram here. Previously with Dynar, we would get our patients in maybe a week before they were due to have their planning scan, and we'd do some coaching with them. They'd spend an hour or so with a radiographer in a preparation room, trying the kit while we explained all about the spirometer and what the purpose was. They would practice. A lot of them found it really difficult, so it was very, very time consuming, but the prep visit itself was absolutely 100% worthwhile, because obviously patients needed to feel comfortable for their treatment and understand why we were using the spirometer. We would then take the breath hold kit on a trolley up to CT. We would reconnect all the kit in CT, which took 10 and 15 minutes. We'd CT them in free breathing breath hold, then planning as normal. Then the kit comes back to the linac. So you can see that the actual physicality of the kit was a bit annoying. Not only in the fact that we had connection fails, the spirometers have to go off to be serviced, etc. There was a lot of consumables, because every time a patient came in, they had to have a new mouthpiece, a new nose peg. None of this stuff is sort of transferable. And our treatment appointments for DIBH at that point were about 20 minutes. And we were probably lucky if we managed to get them done in 20 minutes. With SGRT, we no longer have to do the prep visit, because the breath hold technique is so simple with SGRT. You can actually just do that when you take your patient along to CT. They get it really quickly. It's not invasive in any way, so patients are a lot more relaxed. It's a much, much better way of doing or delivering DIBH. We still CT in free breathe and breath hold. We still have to plan the patients, but then we don't have any of the sort of faffing around that goes on with moving kit on and off the bed. And actually we've seen a massive reduction in our treatment appointment time. So we were around 20 minutes before. We're scheduling in some of our centres 10-minute appointments for breath hold now. And actually when you time radiographers from the moment they get the patient on the bed to when they're getting them off the bed, it's about 4.5 minutes. So, and that's including their imaging and image review, so it's super, super fast. So there's a little video here. I'm hoping the sound's going to work. Let's see. Say again? You didn't test? Well, we're about to find out. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't, that's fine. It's not looking like. I'll just skip past that bit. I was just going to show you a bit of a video of actually how you would treat a patient in DIBH. But if any of you are interested and you would like me to send that on to you via email, please speak to Menna and we can forward that on. But it is really as simple as I just explained. We did review some open face shells. This is actually a Macromedics shell that we have found to be exceptionally good for mobilisation. We are testing a Civco brand for head and neck as well. This one we were looking at specifically for SRS. We have had issues with XVI reviews in the past. We're using the sort of standard headrests. We can see quite a bit of tilt and rotational issues because they're not specifically made for the patient that you're treating. These shells are great because they're custom made, so you actually make the back of the shell specific to your patient before you actually make the front aspect. You can tilt their chin into whatever position while you make the back, so they are very and they're very solid and well made, and our patients love them because they've not got their faces covered anymore. You can see from the images that we actually see a lot of the skin surface for the face here. So yeah, we've had some exceptional results with these as well. We're seeing sort of sub-millimetre accuracy with using the SGRT system to set up alongside the open face shell. I think we had, it's probably worth saying that a lot of our radiographers were not very keen on moving over to open face shells because you think that you'll actually increase your errors in setup. With shells like these, you're actually, your patients are more relaxed, so they don't tend to be as anxious when you're planning them. So we've actually seen the complete opposite. Even though the front aspect of the face is exposed, sort of movement during treatment and also that initial setup and XVI is better than we've seen with some of our more standard setups. Another good thing to mention about the SGRT system is that it picks up a lot of rotational issues prior to XVI that, again, we wouldn't have seen before. So we audited our head and necks much the same way as we audited our breast patients. We ran the system in the background for a while, monitored our XVI results before and after, and you can see here that the Align RT system actually picked up a rotation that the radiographers didn't see from just marks on the shell. And had we, that came to a point where we had to then go back into the room, reset the patient up, re-XVI, and actually if we just corrected those rotations in the room before scanning, we wouldn't have had to do any of that. And then, Rachel has talked about this. This has probably been the most emotive section of our audit. I think it took us a little bit by surprise that actually we were focusing very much on the technical aspect of SGRT and what that meant for our centres and efficiency, and actually the major thing that the audit has shown us is that patients don't phone up and say, can I have the latest technology? They actually phone up and want to come to us now because they don't have to have that tattoo. And I think we as a profession, we become a little bit blasé about tattooing patients. It's what we do, but actually we don't have to do that, and we probably shouldn't be doing that anymore. Jo's poster is based all around, her work on proving that the system is as accurate, if not more so, than setting up to tattoos. And it makes perfect sense in itself that you've got 20,000 points that you're now looking at on a patient, not just 3 or 5 or whatever you standardly tattoo. And Jo's paper has proved that, that is the case. So we are now no longer tattooing any of our breast patients at Nottingham or Oxford centres, and we will be moving towards rolling that out across the UK. And the patient feedback has been amazing, as I said. And that's it from me, but thank you very much for having me. And yeah.
You're mentioning XVI. Do you code beam your breast patients on a daily basis? Is that correct?
We do a fast low dose XVI scan, so it's sort of a half arc scan. But with this system, we are now looking to completely change our imaging protocol, because the system has proved that we can set up as well with the SGRT system as we can with XVI. We'll probably look to completely change in how we're imaging our patients.
So when you're matching your code beam, or larger disease where there might be a difference between your bony anatomy, your chest wall, your breast tissue, what, when you're using your code beam, are you predominantly matching to?
So, our imaging protocols are set. We haven't changed those in any way, shape or form. What the SGRT system allows you to do is capture a new reference surface for, so if you review your XVI and actually a clinical decision is made to either stick to bony anatomy or actually the surface of the patient for that fraction, and it takes you out of tolerance in your SGRT system, your XVI is always going to be your gold standard because it's your clinical treated volume. You can actually just capture a reference surface of the day so that you can still continue to monitor even if your delta values have come out of tolerance. So your XVI or your imaging is always used predominantly. The SGRT system is just used as a sort of intrafraction motion monitoring if that's the case and you've had to move past what the SGRT system has told you to do. Where am I looking?
Obviously it's quite changed from the status quo. In terms of implementation, how quick were you able to establish that service?
Yeah, we moved pretty quickly actually. Our results were so good that we had a couple of clinicians at Nottingham who were very keen on the technology, and we actually moved within probably a couple of weeks to move into tattoo-less for setups. We are still, that sounds perhaps a little outrageous, but we were still very careful with what we wrote down at CT. So if the SGRT system went down, which it hasn't in the 18 months that we've had it, we can still actually mark our patients so we can continue to treat. You just have to be a bit careful around measurements at CT.